you for your patience. Give you a translation now. So this is the summer season here in Australia, and for that reason the sunlight remains with us till quite late in the evening. In the winter season, the nights draw in earlier, it's darker and for longer periods of time at night. These are parts of nature that we can learn to understand the effect just of a simple thing like sunlight or darkness, how it affects our mind, our bodies in different ways. As people who are interested to develop ourselves in a good way, in a right way, we learn in this way how to understand our environment and to relate to it skillfully. We learn how to be careful and circumspect in what we do and how we relate to the people and the world around us. This is a foundation for learning how to perfect ourselves or bring ourselves to completion. And we're all interested in this. We're interested to develop ourselves through the practice of Dhamma. One who practices the Dhamma develops a sense of awareness, mindfulness, not forgetting themselves, not getting lost in themselves. They learn how to develop their own natural resources, their own intelligence, their own skills and virtue, the things that nature has given us. Through developing ourselves in this way, our own wisdom can come up and we can understand the world better and free ourselves from suffering. We can develop better human relations with the other people in the world around us, with society, and we can learn to interact with our environment in a better way. This kind of personal development is based on a foundation of kindness, generosity, compassion, and sensitivity to the people and environment around us, and a sensitivity to ourselves. To develop this, we must develop awareness, our basic awareness of ourselves. We must come to know our own mind in all situations. We must learn to keep in touch with our mind, the changing mental environment, our different experiences, our moods, our thoughts, and so on. One of the ways the Lord Buddha gave us to do this, to develop this awareness, is the reflection on Buddhanusati, the recollection of the Lord Buddha, and the awareness of the Buddha himself and recollection of him as a meditation object. This is a basis for developing skillful lifestyles and skillful relationships in society, and to develop this sense of kindness and compassion for others. The alternative is if we don't develop ourselves and develop these kind of qualities, well, we tend to suffer a lot. We can use this time in the evening for Dhamma practice. All beings in this world, both human and animals, tend to use the daylight hours for work, for making a living, getting the things they need to live. But the evening and night time can be a time to develop other things, other qualities. So for us it's a time we can use to develop the Dhamma practice, using the peace and quiet of the evening time to relax, quieten our minds and free them from some of the stresses of our daily life. And we can use this time for meditation and developing a sense of inner peace. To do this, we develop sati, which means mindfulness or recollection, literally bringing the mind to the present moment, dropping all the concerns and thoughts about the past, understanding that the past is over with, we can't change it, or there's no need to keep bringing it up in the mind, and dropping all the concerns and mental agitation based on thoughts of the future, understanding that the future has not yet arrived yet, it hasn't happened yet. We instead develop what we call the Paccuppanna Dhamma, bringing the mind to the present moment. And this is something that is a skill. Learning to bring the mind to the present moment is a skill that we must practice and train ourselves to bring up. Learning to hold attention in the present moment. The Lord Buddha encouraged us to use the things we have around us to support this practice, use the environment, so find a quiet place where there's few distractions to develop the practice of mindfulness. He encouraged us to practice this Buddhanusati, a recollection of the Buddha, or using the mantra Buddho, to fix the mind's attention, to bring it to a state of peace and calm where it's let go of the nivarana, the 5 main obstacles to a peaceful mind. One who has not yet developed this inner mindfulness and peacefulness will always be obstructed by the 5 hindrances, that is, thoughts of sensual desire, thoughts based on aversion, sloth and torpor, mental restlessness and agitation, and thoughts based on doubt and uncertainty about things. These 5 areas, 5 kinds of obstacles are constantly bothering us. What we have to do is bring up a state of mind that is radiant and aware, and use that awareness and that wisdom to shine into the mind, to illuminate these different obstructions, to see them for what they are and to help us abandon them. You could compare these 5 obstructions to a form of mental disease that are characterized by different kinds of stress, suffering and mental agitation, and as not the experience of peace. To deal with them, we have to develop a sense of caution, circumspection and mindfulness, just as we do to deal with everything in this world, both the external world and the internal world of our mind, our thoughts, all the different ideas and concepts that come up into the mind, what we call Dhamma aramana, Dhamma objects, our internal thoughts and feelings that come up and affect our mood and how we feel and can often cause us suffering. We can see that every day we are experiencing different feelings of happiness and suffering. Just like there is daylight and then nighttime, we have happiness and we have aversion and suffering arising, alternating as our experience. This all arises out of delusion and attachment. So the Lord Buddha had us practice to develop the awareness to be able to separate these 2 experiences off from each other in the mind, to see the harm and the danger, particularly in our negative emotions and the unwholesome mental states that come up in the mind. He described these in 2 basic classes of negative emotions and negative mental states. One is what we call the indulgence in sense desire or sensuality, kama sukhali kanuyoka. The other is the indulgence and attachment to feelings of self-torture, aversion, suffering, what we call attakila matana yoga. All people tend towards these 2 extremes in their life, tending towards attachment and seeking of pleasure and happiness, always rejecting, having aversion for unpleasant experiences based in suffering. But now we're developing mindfulness and a clear understanding of the mind in the present moment. This is to allow us to see these experiences for what they are and to understand them as just Dhamma aramanas, just objects of mind that arise and pass away without grasping at them. We study our own mind right at this place, the place where these two experiences of pleasure, attachment to a pleasure and attachment to the unpleasant arise, and to see the danger in these two extremes, to see the kind of mental and physical behaviour that they give rise to. Normally, unenlightened, undeveloped people will keep falling into these two extremes of behaviour because they have a cloudiness in their mind. They're not clear about things. Their eyes are covered over. You might say intoxicated, or you could compare it to children who are just infatuated with toys and games and don't really know much other than that. They don't have a sense of responsibility or any wider intelligence than that, maybe forget everything else and don't see the truth. To counter this tendency towards intoxication with these two extremes, we develop and establish mindfulness and a clear understanding of what we're doing at all times, so that we don't just keep getting lost into experiences of pleasure and displeasure and attaching to them. All of our attachments, they arise based on these kind of desires. These desires feed them. We attach to the experiences of pleasure based on external pleasant objects that we encounter in the course of our day, or external unpleasant objects that we encounter in the course of our day. We keep attaching to these pleasurable or unpleasurable objects and reacting to them with happiness and suffering. We must see how when we are caught into this sort of endless reacting with liking and disliking, these different kind of desires, the mind is not free. It's as if enslaved to its own reactions, always seeking pleasure and rejecting pain and the unpleasant. The mind is not really pure, it's not secure or safe if it keeps reacting in this way. It's not at peace. It's still just falling into endless reactions and attachments. So the practice of Buddhanusati, recollection of the Buddha, and this word Buddho, helps us to establish the mindful awareness on just one object, the recollection of the Lord Buddha. We have to learn how to accept the fact that we're born and live on this earth and share it with other humans and animals and the vegetation around us, the environment around us. We establish mindfulness, this sense of knowing and understanding of the truths that exist in nature, so that we can see things as they are, just as they are, without embellishing them through our attachments and delusions. The Lord Buddha always encouraged us to first of all understand ourselves, so that we can relate to the world without suffering. We have to see that the basis for suffering is this attachment to a sense of self, what we call attavada upatana, the attachment to the sense of perception of self, or attatipataya, always interpreting everything from the sense of a self or an ego, and always giving importance to this self or ego above all other things. We're learning to use mindfulness to see through this kind of delusion. The Buddha said, look carefully at this world. If we can look carefully at this mind and the world around us, we'll see that the deluded mind is one that is caught into wrong view or misunderstanding of truth. And this will always lead to intoxication with moods and negative emotions. We must really use mindfulness and the quality of clear understanding to get the mind out of this, to free itself. And to do this we can investigate this body, this very body that we have here. This is the place of practice. Reflect on your body with mindfulness and clear comprehension, to develop awareness of the truth about this body. We can do this by putting our attention on the breath, anapanasati, recollection of the in and out breath, or recollection of the pranic energy of this body. While we're still breathing, then obviously this body is still alive, it's functioning, and we can take that breath as a basis for meditation by focusing our awareness on the feeling of the breath. This in turn gives us an awareness of the whole body, and from this we can develop the first foundation of mindfulness, Kayanupassana Satipatthana. We focus on the body to see it in the light of its component parts, the different aspects of this body, the 32 parts, the 4 elements, the breath and so on. And to see this body just as it is, the body as a body, as physical elements, as part of nature, without any real self or essence in them. There's no self in these component parts or these 4 elements of the body. There's no being, no person, and no me or mine in there. That's to be seen through as a delusion. We just see the body as it is, without desire, without attachment or delusion. Training ourselves in this way gives rise to correct view or right view, and from this we get peace of mind, because it comes to accept the truth that the body is just the body. We know the body as the body rather than being my body or a being, a person. We're letting go of a heavy burden, putting that heavy burden down. That's the heavy burden of delusion and the attachment to a sense of self. So we develop this awareness of both body and mind to free ourselves from the causes of suffering. There's nothing more conducive to suffering than wrong view and delusion, and our mistaken understanding of truth. This is the greatest threat to our own peace of mind and to the peace of the world. It causes us to constantly have thoughts and emotions based on greed, anger and delusion. They keep coming up in the mind because of this sense of self and the attachment to self. They even lead to us to have, from this sense of self and the greed, anger and delusion that arise based on it, it leads us to aggressive behaviour, harmful behaviour that can affect others as well as ourselves. One who practices to reduce the strength of wrong view, or the power or the overwhelming power of wrong view in their own mind, is one who becomes awake, like somebody waking up from sleep or sobering up from a state of intoxication. They become mindful and learn to reflect on the truth, and from this they gain an inner peace in both body and mind. They gain what we call an inner sense of seclusion or detachment that stays there all the time in the mind, whether in the daytime or the night time. It comes from this clarity, the knowledge and vision of the way things truly are, a clear understanding of truth that is present at all times. So the Lord Buddha had us develop Buddho or Buddhanusati as a tool for developing this clarity and vision, to see the danger in our attachment and the endless round of birth and death that is based on this attachment. This is the thing that will free us from that, the practice of mindfulness and development of wisdom. In comparison, you could say just in the last 24 hours there's been a terrible storm or cyclone entered northern Queensland, something that threatened people and property, and normally we might look on something like that, an event like that, with fear and worry or anger and aversion. But it's also something that can teach us. We can learn from it rather than just getting caught into those negative emotions. This is something that's teaching us about the impermanent nature of the world and the unsatisfactory nature of the world, and the lack of self in this world, in the sense that we can't control or own everything in this world. We can actually gain some benefit out of such a terrible experience in this way by reflecting on it wisely. We can even see that perhaps in the long run, the long-term view is that this is just nature adjusting itself. After many years of drought, we now have a lot of rainfall, which is actually quite good for the land in the long run, even though in the short term it seems like something very frightening, threatening, or at least inconvenient. In the long run it can actually have some good for us, bring some good to us. So we're learning to reflect wisely in this way, not just to react to things with our own emotions, but to see the full picture with wisdom and awareness. This is seeing the full truth of such an event, and this helps us to let go of any negative emotions we might have. Say we might have anger or fear. By seeing the truth about this event, then that attachment and that feeling of feeling threatened, a self that is threatened by, say, a cyclone, evaporates, and we just see it all as Dhamma, as truth. The result of seeing things in a true way or a correct way is that the mind becomes cool and peaceful. You can see that the experiences, any kind of experience of greed and selfishness, anger or delusion, these are like hot fires that burn the mind, that bring a lot of agitation and mental suffering to the mind, and they make it impossible for us to be at peace or settle down or feel free. But when we manage to actually let go of these qualities of greed, anger and delusion, then it does bring the mind to coolness and peace. So the Dhamma practice helps us to do this. The Lord Buddha said to sit up straight, put effort into your posture, fix attention on the in and out breathing as a way to train ourselves. At first it seems difficult. It seems hard to find the breath or keep the mind fixed on the breath. It seems hard to steady the mind, quieten it down. So we have to keep doing it. Keep establishing our awareness to know the breath, to know whether it's coming in or whether it's coming out. We have to learn how to give up our thoughts about past events, thoughts about the future. Maybe determined to sit and practice for a period of time, such as 40 minutes, and gain a skill in this so that we can sit and not move for maybe up to 40 minutes. Don't let the worries and the agitated mind states overwhelm you. Don't give in to them. Don't worry about any feelings of pain or discomfort in the legs. Try to let all of this go. A small amount of bodily pain is quite normal. That's the way of this body. It always has some pain and discomfort. So try to see it as something just ordinary, not to get too concerned about. It's quite normal for this body to be a bit agitated and disturbed in the way it feels. Don't expect it to feel completely free from all kinds of pain, irritation and so on. But as we keep practicing, the mind will adjust, and as it will just come to see these as normal experiences, and the mind will lose its fear, agitation, and won't suffer with them. It's just like somebody learning to jog. The first time they jog around the park, it seems quite hard and tough. There's a bit of pain and discomfort, and it seems like a very hard thing to do, a difficult thing to do. But if they practice running, jogging every day, then it gets easier and easier. They don't have to worry about the discomfort anymore, and the mind gets used to it, and they feel quite happy. So sit up straight, put effort into your posture, establish mindfulness, and try to abandon the 5 hindrances or obstructions to a peaceful mind. Try it out, experiment for yourself. As we practice, it's a way we can see that it's a way we can change our view to bring it in line with truth. And this can change our whole experience of life for the better. It can give rise to all kinds of wisdom and understanding based on seeing and knowing oneself better. And we can also learn to understand the world around us better. The Lord Buddha encouraged us to learn about the world from this body and mind, to see this body and mind as it is, not a person, a being, me or mine, to develop the wisdom that sees things just as they are. The body is the body, the mind is the mind. And this kind of wisdom changes our behaviour as we become clearer about the truth. You could compare it to somebody walking in the early morning when it's still dark. They get up and leave their dwelling place early, it's dark, so they walk along with a little bit of intrepidation or concern because they can't quite see the ground, they can't see what's around them, so there's a little bit of worry or nervousness there. But as the sun comes up at dawn, shining light onto the ground and into the area where they're walking, they feel better, they feel more comfortable, and they can walk easily. This is similar to somebody who's waking up to the truth, and the light of wisdom and understanding coming into their mind makes them feel better, more peaceful, and their normal sense of insecurity and worry fades away. As we practice, we come to understand this mind and body in this way. The Lord Buddha practiced on the night of his enlightenment all night long. In the first watch of the night, the early part, he meditated in the peace and quiet of the forest, away from distractions. And this allowed the mind to settle down. As the mind settled down, then inwardly he started to let go of those things that disturbed and distracted the mind, those negative or unwholesome tendencies. He could see them and let them go, and gradually his mind became more and more refined, with more and more refined awareness and a sense of inner peace. So the Lord Buddha was enlightened out of this very knowledge and understanding that we're developing here. He learned to see things in accordance with truth in this way. Now we ourselves, we can practice and recollect the qualities of the Buddha and see that really he was perfecting human qualities that we all have. We all have the potential for this. This is something within all of us. If we develop the awareness and the insight, as the Buddha did in his quest for enlightenment. As we develop this inner awareness and insight, we come to have true confidence and faith in the Buddhist path to enlightenment. We see that it is something that really can develop in the mind of a human being. We can see that a human being has the potential for this. Once we really have confidence in that and believe in that, we call it Tathagata Bodhisattva. We really believe and have faith in the enlightenment of the Buddha and can see that all human beings have the same potential. They have the same potential to develop the knowledge and understanding of things as they are and to free their minds from suffering. All human beings have this. All human beings can live their life in this way and develop this experience of enlightenment, whether it's in this life or the next. They can do it. So we should reflect that time is passing by. Every day time is passing by. We must learn to use this opportunity we have as human beings to do that which is beneficial. We must practice to develop ourselves in the right way for developing inner and experiencing inner peace and abandoning suffering. We must try to see the value of this practice so that we continue to do it and benefit from it.